Ellen Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. So if I don't go at 8:15 in the morning, I'm going to try to go to 8:15 at night because I did make a commitment to some of you who watch me every day to do a daily live, to just share a message every single day about pressure-free living that hopefully just gives a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of hope for anyone who's struggling, and some insight to those of you who are looking to perform at a higher level. So I'm going to take another page out of my planner today. It is day 34. And the quote today is from Mother Teresa: "Spread love everywhere you go. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier." And here's my musing on that particular quote. When we are triggered and release stress hormones, it is very difficult to love. We're in survival mode and focused on protecting ourselves. We may not even realize how we are treating others. We either get bossy, the B word, or we feel broken, uncommunicative. One of the pressure-free tools is to connect and communicate clearly. Each moment we have a choice in how we want to connect and communicate. We can choose how we wish to greet each other and say goodbye. Handshakes, fist bumps, hugs, kisses, hand holding. Knowing the color of another's eyes mean that you really looked at them. People are starving to be seen, heard, and understood, and we have the power to feed them. So my question for you is, how can you spread more love and leave people feeling happier? So I started to think about that before I came on here tonight. And certainly, if you watch the news, if you see what's going on around the world, in our own country, we are not spreading love. There's a lot of confusion out there. And if you really take a look at people in their actions and how they're behaving, it's pretty obvious that they've triggered the stress response, because people would not be acting the way that they are. They wouldn't be saying the things they're doing or doing the actions they are if they were pressure free, if they weren't under the influence of fight or flight stress hormones. So much of what we see in the world that we don't like or that is confusing to us or hurtful, if you take a look at it, it's behavior that's what I would call under the line. As a violin teacher, for years, I would watch my students play and they're doing great. And all of a sudden they make a mistake and they go, oh, they like sink. All their energy would just go right into the floor instead of out to the audience. So I used to think about that and I'm like, I would say to them, stay up, stay up. Like, it's okay. This is the place where we make mistakes in a lesson, right? So we can fix them and learn. But they would be embarrassed. They would instantly be triggered. And I remember before I understood the stress response and got into this work, sometimes I would be frustrated as a teacher because they would make the mistake and they would get upset. And then it seemed like anything I tried to do to help them correct it or to play better just fell on deaf ears. Like they couldn't even take the information in. I now know why. Because once we trigger that first flood of hormones, those catecholamines, that's adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine, it actually changes our ability to hear and our ability to see. So now they're not quite seeing the music as focused as they could, or if they're playing by memory, they can't bring the memories forward. And the other thing that happens is they're not really hearing very well. Our hearing is going to move to be very respondent to what feels like a threat. So even my voice as the teacher could feel like a threat to them. And so in many cases, they're shutting down. They're not even hearing what I'm saying. So inside, I would be like, gosh, they should just pack up their instrument and go home because there's nothing more I can do here. And then once I understood the stress response, my teaching changed so much. I taught my students how to not be embarrassed when they made a mistake, but to stay up, keep their energy up. And it was a body thing. You know, I have this silly Ferris wheel. If you haven't seen the Ferris wheel, then it's literally pretending to push a Ferris wheel up into the sky. But if you can't do this, if it's not appropriate or you're driving, use one hand, right? But you can simply lift your ribs up. And so I would have my students elevate up and keep their energy high and going out instead of dropping into the floor. And without knowing it, what I was doing, I was helping them protect themselves from a release of hormones. That is so profound. So I called it staying above the line, as if this line comes out from our chest and we don't want to drop below the line with our energy. We want to keep our energy full and present and going out. Once we drop below the line in shame or frustration that we've made a mistake, it's so easy to trigger the stress response because our body is in a frame that's literally telling our mind to do it. So by pushing in the air, lifting up your ribs, getting your chest open and wide, not pushed back like this, but open and wide, you can stay up. You can get over whatever is happening. And it gives your brain just this moment to choose your response to what happens next. You actually, if you think about it, when you choose your response, you just change the trajectory of the rest of your day. It's pretty interesting to see what starts to happen. So what was happening in my violin lessons was I was helping my student not trigger the stress response. That changed the whole rest of the lesson. They can hear my instructions. We can play together. We can work out the problems. We can work on a phrase. I remember once I had this wonderful student. He was a football player and an excellent violinist. His fingers were twice as wide as mine. And so but he had beautiful form. I taught him how to play really well. He was concertmaster of his orchestra. He was very talented. And I remember an entire 45-minute lesson. We worked on one phrase of Mozart, the entire 45 minutes, and he was not bored at all. Like we were crafting this incredible phrase. The other day I did a little, I guess it was in my newsletter. I talked about what did I talk about? Aiming to perfect versus trying to be perfect. That is something that I've been teaching just because I knew it was the better way for years with my violin students. Aiming to perfect versus trying to be perfect. And when you're aiming to perfect, you're in a totally different energy. If we make a mistake, we go back and we correct it and we work through it. And the thing is, once you make a mistake, like as a violinist, once I make a mistake, I created a fingering. And now I've got to like untangle that fingering in my mind to fix the problem. So it takes patience. And so when I read this quote from Mother Teresa, like, spread love everywhere you go, let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. I think again about my violin students. I would think about how when they come into this lesson, what is my job as a teacher, as a professor? My job was to work with them in our hour together, however long our lesson is, so that when they leave, they're not only a better violinist or violist, but they're a more enlightened person. At the college where I taught, I would get some students who had never played the violin before. They wanted to play the violin. But a couple of them said to me, but we heard we want to come and work with you because we heard about what kind of teacher you are. And all that I was really doing was giving them the space to grow, like really giving them the space to grow. And in the end, what I was doing was creating a loving space, like a beautiful experience within my teaching studio, so that when they left, they felt enlightened, they felt better, they felt happier. I was spreading that, I was creating that. Now, as a performance coach, I do the same things. Almost all my work is through Zoom, unless I'm hired in to come into a corporation and we're doing a live speaking engagement at a conference or something. But most of my coaching is through the internet. If I'm coaching live, if I'm coaching a retreat, hosting a retreat, then I create the space. Like I work really diligently to create the space where people can come in, learn something and leave enlightened, feeling happier. It's not really happiness I'm after as much as optimal, that they feel optimized, body and soul. So mind, what the mind can do, what the body can do, what our souls can do. And so that's something I work really, really hard at to do with my clients privately and also in groups. It's definitely a skill that started in my youth, just as a performer, creating a space where something really beautiful would take place. Um, I was just on a podcast and it's going to be released pretty soon, where I said that, I'm not so interested in positive psychology, to be honest with you. I'm more interested in optimized psychology, optimized human being, sustainable human. Because a lot of the people that I work with, a lot of the students that I work with too, so adults and students are very serious people. They're very responsible. They're taking on some very big tasks. Some of them are CEOs, some of them are coaches, they are leaders, they are captains of their team. I worked with a young man who was captain of his college team all 4 years. It's amazing. As a freshman, he was named captain. So they tend to be in leadership type roles that they're attracted to me for that because they want to optimize what they're doing. But when we're serious, you might not necessarily feel happy. For example, if I'm playing a really sad piece of violin music, I might not really feel happy. But if I'm totally in the zone, I feel amazing. I feel so amazing and so optimal. So that's really my word for what I do here at Pressure Free is help people move into that space. By the way, I'm hosting a retreat in Napa at the end of the month, so Napa, California, and there are still 3 spots open. So if you know someone in California that wants to come to a retreat, or if you want to fly out, um, it's going to be quite special. I've never done one in Napa before. I've done them in Colorado, in Michigan, and in New Hampshire, so I'm adding California to the list this year. Oh, what else? Gosh, I think that's what I have for you tonight, and I hope it's helpful. Um, I truly believe that we can change this world, but it's going to take us being mature adults, not emotional brats. I'm sorry to just say it. That's what I see all over the news. I see people who are just acting like middle schoolers. I have had students say to me, Mrs. Ingalls, you just teach people how to be grown up. Grown-ups aren't acting like grown-ups. It's time for us to act like grown-ups. It's time for us to be emotionally mature, emotionally resilient. And the fastest way I know to do that is to not trigger the stress response. And then you're actually aware of your behavior, what you're saying, what you're doing. Um, so that's my little soapbox for tonight. I hope it's helpful. I wish you a great pressure-free day. Probably be on in the morning tomorrow, at 8:15. And just wish you the best. Thanks. Bye.